Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope wherever you are connected from, you are having a wonderful day. And welcome to Creative Workshops. We are united here and brought here together by this amazing art that is dance. Here on Creative Workshop, we would like to welcome you to our workshops that are conformed of 20 free workshops that All Dance International is offering for every one of our All Dance members. It always with us, workshop artists are part of our staff, All Dance International judging staff that are aligned with the All Dance principles and goals. So this is an opportunity for us to share with each one of you and with all of you all the knowledge you'll need and all the information you'll need in order to create your competitive creative performance process. One of our main goals is to help grow the dance industry worldwide. And that's why we are here with you today, because together we are going to make the dance industry stronger. All Dance International is always looking to ways to provide better knowledge, better elements that will help this growth as well. So I would like to thank All Dance International for creating these spaces, and of course Maria Fernanda Castro, our All Dance General Director, because thanks to her, all these initiatives are possible. She is always looking for new ways to come and bring us together and help dance evolve and grow the dance industry in general, and of course the entertainment industry and the dance education industry. So here, we are here today to start this process with you. I'm here today. My name is Sandra Correa. I'm Technical Director of All Dance International, and it is a great pleasure to be here with you in order to start this workshop of creative workshops. Now, creativity. When we think about creativity, there's a lot of things that come in mind. A new creative process, a lot of elements are come to mind, but one element that is surely important is one that we have here. Guilford says that creativity is the ability or aptitude to generate new alternatives from the starting point of an information given. So here, having that, keeping that in mind and taking that to account, well, we bring you here that information. To keep that information and to have that information, let's say, already given, well, it goes up to the originality, the creativity, and of course, especially the imagination. That is one of the most important components. So that way we can create all these performances, all these choreographies based on the same information, but that is where we're going to see all the creative process come to life with the originality and of course the imagination that each one of you is going to put into your performance. Now today, we're going to see all of the elements that are going to be necessary for one of our different techniques and modalities, one of our 25 different techniques, 45 different modalities that we have in All Dance International for you. Now today is the turn for Acro Dance. Acro Dance, I will be with you today as this is one of our amazing techniques and modalities that has so many elements that can give different, let's say, bring different things to life on stage. It combines not only dance, but the acrobatics and gymnastics. So it's not two dance techniques that come together, but actually two different techniques. And the dance industry has brought, let's say, adopted a lot of the gymnastic and acrobatic elements. TV shows and a lot of also social media has brought special attention to these abilities. Is programs like Dance Moms, So You Think You Can Dance, all these programs have a lot of this influence and has made it very popular for all kids and all dancers around the world. So here we have our modality that's called Acro Dance. Here we're going to see a combination of different dance techniques and acrobatic elements. Now, what dance techniques can we use? We normally see a lot of jazz and lyrical. We can also use contemporary jazz, contemporary, even ballet. combined with all these acrobatic elements. One of the main characteristics is by the perfection, the union, and how this all works together in harmony. Of course, in a dance context. It's not to put a little bit of dance in the, say, the gymnastic side of dance, in this gymnastics execution, but bring more gymnastic into the dance. Okay, I hope that is kind of clear. So what are we expecting in Acro Dance? We have a lot of liberty to create what we are creating on stage. Now, main elements that should be present: dance and acrobatic elements. How much of elements of dance, how many elements of acrobatics? Will we have a minimum of 5 acrobatic elements in order to say, okay, we have elements for acro dance and of course dance. It should be a little more, let's say, balanced out, that we can actually see throughout the performance these acrobatic elements. So the idea is not to see dance, some acrobatics, and that's it, but to fuse them together and actually work as a, let's say, as a team, acrobatic elements and also dance. So that way, let's say, I would like to say that gymnastics and acrobatic elements in the dance turn as if they were dance elements. In which way? In the way that they should keep the, let's say, the main characteristics that dance has, that it's expression, that's a fluidity, that is how they go together, not just execution, but actually come together and dance those acrobatic elements, if I can make it clear. So I don't know if that sounds like logic for you, but that is like the difficulty and the artistic side of acro dance, where we can turn acrobatics into dance and make them come together with this dance context and keep it all well, working in harmony. So we have whole range of possibilities in music, in costume, and other elements in our creation. So that will give us a lot of freedom in our creative process. So this, well, obviously is one of the, let's say, positive sides that we have. So the main elements that should be present are how we balance out the dance and the acrobatics, how we unite and how we integrate those acrobatic elements in our dance performance, say it was jazz, ballet, whatever, without losing the dance process and the clarity in the dance elements, because of course we're a dance championship, so that will be necessary. Those are the main elements that will be a part of what we call acro dance. That's not the only things we have to keep in mind. We have to keep in mind a lot of things. Now, first, one of the elements that I'm going to share with you are our levels. In All Dance International, we strive to keep a very safe and a very positive competitive environment. And for that, one of the elements that should be present is, of course, for it to be fair, equal, and just for everybody. In order to look for those elements, we have developed different levels. So the dancers will have to compete against other dancers in the same level and with the same, let's say, overall and general elements that they also share. So this experience can help them grow and be positive in their artistic development. Now we have 4 main different levels. Sorry. These levels will be new all dancers, student, pre-professional, and professional. Those are the main 4 levels we have. Now, new all dancers will be dancers that are just beginning in dance and in the acrobatic process. They can be from 4 years old up to 14 years old in age, and will have in their performances, of course, a basic level. We do not determine new all dancers how long they have been dancing, how long they have been training, or their, let's say, their artistic experience. So it can be their first competition, their second. That is not what we are going to be based on. What we're going to base it on is the technical difficulty in the performance, in the choreography. Now, what are those elements that should be or maybe should not be present? Okay, so they're basic dancers, just learning how to work, let's say, their spatial awareness, their musical ability. Also, let's see, their left, right, their coordination, all these elements, the knowledge and, let's say, development of their body to know straight knees, the strength, of course, involved in their acrobatic elements, and the flexibility. So here we're going to see elements such as, let's say, in the acrobatic sense, with both hands on the floor, with, or maybe the whole body on contact, the head. And let's say in dance, we're going to see basic elements. If they are starting to turn, simple turns. If they are starting to do jumps, well, simple jumps, not jumps that have, in, let's say, an expansion of the legs of 180 degrees, but simple elements that we can see that they are just beginning to develop that strength and that dominion of their body. Now we have our next level, that's student level. Student level are dancers from 6 years old and over. And there we don't have any limitations for what they can do or perform in their choreography. So here we're going to see elements. They can do simple turns, double turns, triple turns, jumps. They can do difficult acrobatic elements with high impact, aerials, let's say back tucks, back handsprings, front handsprings, a lot of elements. And here we don't have any limits. The limits will be what is safe and what the dancer is ready to perform on stage, but not to determine the level. We also have the student open, where we can see performances with new all dancers and student dancers in the same performance. So that is why we have this level when they are combined, okay? We have also pre-professional and professional level. These levels are for those more advanced dancers that are part of maybe a dance company, are student teachers, are teachers, are choreographers, maybe workshop artists. So they have, let's say, a different knowledge. They're starting to share that knowledge in dance they have, and of course have a good dominion of their body, a very clean and well executed technique with high difficulty level and precision, good expression. Now, what is going to be the main difference about pre-professional and professional level? One of the difference will be age. In pre-professional level, we have dancers from 15 years and over. If they are 15 to 17 years old and they are teachers, student teachers, they are helping teachers in class, and they are maybe even workshop artists, choreographers, but they are under 18, they will be considered pre-professional dancers. What other way can I be a pre-professional dancer? If you're a very, let's say, high technical student, you have a very good development, you have already won a lot of competitions and want to say, no, I want to go to the next level. I want to compete against pre-professionals. I do not teach, but I know I can do well, and maybe in student, I know I'm going to have a, let's say, an easy competition. So you want to give yourself that edge, because one of the elements that will give us pride in what we achieve are that, let's say, one, that it's fair, that we are very fair in that, and that we are honest. But the other element is to strive to be able to get those achievements. So that depends on what you consider to be your execution level. But if you are a teacher and you're 15, 16, 17, you are and will be considered pre-professional. So this is your level. Now, professional dancers are the dancers that are teachers, choreographers, dance studio directors, are part of a professional dance company, have a title in dance, and you are over 18 years old. So this will be considered a professional level dancer. We also have Open Pro. Our level Open Pro is for those choreographies that have pre-professional dancers and professional dancers the same performance. So that's what we're going to consider the level Open Pro. And we have our other level that's open. This level is open all ages, all levels, in open production, large groups. So here we'll see every age, any level, large groups, all those big productions. And here we can see student dancers, new all dancers with pre-professional or professional dancers. So we can see all the levels alike. Doesn't matter the level, the age, large groups, and open production will go here in open. So as you see, we have levels for everybody. So they have a fair opportunity. They have an equal opportunity in their competitive process. And of course, their competitive experience. Now, if we already know, okay, we have our modality, we know we have the basic elements that we need, we know which level our student is in. In our first workshop, we talk about the divisions, about the age groups, and all the other elements. So if you didn't watch it, you can go on our YouTube channel and watch it so you have those elements clear. Now here we're going to go over other basic elements that are important. That is our grading and scoring method. In All Dance International, we have developed a scoring method that strives to make this a fair competition for everybody. And for this, we have 3 different judges. One is our modality judge. The other one is our complementary and our deduction judge. We have a total score possible of 100 points. 70 of these points will be given or can be given by the modality judge, who is also going to give a feedback to every one of the performances. And we have the complementary judge that's going to be able, in case, to give the 30 additional points to achieve those 100 maximum points achievable. And we have our deduction judge, who is going to be doing some deductions if necessary, in order to keep this fair and of course by specific criteria. The judges are also determined by the organic code and have specific criteria that they will be looking for, and each criteria has a maximum score possible. So they have to obey these, and we're going to go over them so you know what the judges will be looking for in order to create your choreography and of course achieve a better score. Now, each one of these let's say criteria has a different maximum score possible. In those maximum scores possible, the judges will let's say use a rank. They'll have an average score possible. That is the minimum expected in each criteria. We can always go above average and have those almost perfect scores in some of the criteria, and in some criteria we may have to keep on working to achieve that average and maybe still a little below average. So here we know what specific criteria we have to work on, which ones we are very well and okay, we're above average, and in which ones we are just doing the average, and we can always strive to go above average. So that is like the ranks that the judges will be using in each criteria. Now let's see which criteria the judge is going to be looking for in each one of the performances. So this goes, all the criteria go alike for every modality, for every division, for every level. What will change is maybe the expectations according to that level, and of course some elements that have to be present in some modalities and in some different ways. So that's what we're going to go over. Now, modality, the judge is going to be looking for. In specific technique, we have 2 different criteria. To the right side, you can see the maximum score possible for each one of these criteria. So one will be the correct modality. This means it is correct in the modality of, today we're seeing Acro Dance, so it should contain dance and acrobatics alike, and be, let's say, minimum 5 acrobatics. If there's 5, remember that's just the average, what is expected. We can always go above average, keeping the dance context always. And the technical level of the dancer according to their level that they are registered in. So if it's a new all dancer, the level, obviously we're not expecting a very high technical difficulty, because that is not part of what new all dancers would be executing. We're looking for coordination, good execution with the music, let's say elements of acrobatics well executed in the possibilities they have, that's both hands, not very difficult elements, the same as the dance technique, and that's the elements that we will be looking for. If they're working in groups, well, that they start to look at work in a group, the formations, those basic elements that they're trying to work the spatial awareness. If they're student level dancers, and of course they're just very young, 7, a little more, let's say, advanced, and go over the new all dancers, that they have a better understanding and dominion of their body, they have a cleaner execution in their technique, and of course, let's say student level dancers, but of higher age, well, they already have a better coordination and some other elements here. The idea should strive to be as cleanly executed as possible. And of course, pre-professional, professional dancers will be expected to do more difficult elements with higher precision and clean technique. Now, in execution, there will be, let's say, scored the synchronization when it's a duo, trio, small group, or large group. Well, if they're synchronized, if they're working in canon, if it's what are the elements, the speed they are working together, and that is clear, and not just everybody working on their own time. We also have the skill. It's the ability of the dancer to execute all the elements, dance wise and acrobatic wise, with a good execution. The difficulty will be, let's say, in 2 criteria: extraordinary movements and elements of risk. Here, it will be considered, of course, the acrobatic elements executed according to the level of the dancers, and also those virtuous and difficult elements in dance as well. So hard turns, jumps, virtuous elements, flexibility, control, balance, all those elements that are, let's say, need certain technical level and execution in order to perform them correctly. So that's what we're going to consider extraordinary movements or elements of risk, not only the acrobatic elements in the performance, okay? We're also going to be looking to grade and to score the choreographies, the musicality. Here, taking into account the musicality and the musical interpretation of the dancer in the performance, and the music per se. Now, the music, as I told you, has a large range. There's, let's say, not a music that you can't use or that it cannot be used in this modality, but here we're going to see if the music is obviously, if it has an addition, well, if it's edited for the length or for any reason, that it has a good addition, that it has a good quality in the music, and of course that the dancer is using the music to interpret. In choreography, we're going to be looking for the costume, that the costume in let's say in Acro Dance, we don't have a specific costume that has to be used. It should be comfortable for the dancer. It should have something to do with what you are interpreting in your performance and what you are, let's say, portraying. The costume should be, of course, safe for the dancer to execute. So long skirts, for example, I do not highly recommend, because they can make the dancer step on them and maybe fall, slip. So this is a very unnecessary risk and a dangerous risk to assume. So in costume, it normally are leotards, unitards with the shorts, tops. There's a wide variety of elements we can use in the costume. But of course, it should always be safe and comfortable for the dancers to execute, especially when we're executing flexible elements that have, of course, a wider range of movement. The complexity, we talked about the difficulty of the elements in the choreography, and here we're talking about the complexity of the choreography as a total. So the different uses of levels, the different formations, the choreographic composition as a whole. If there is a lot of things in acrobatics were, let's say, executed at the same time by dancers, that is very complex to achieve in gymnastics, even more so than dance. Creativity also. How are we putting all these elements that we all have in common together and creating a unique piece, specially designed for that dancer, for the dancer's level, and for their technical, let's say, also development. And last but not least, entertainment. In entertainment, well, one is the ability for the dancer to connect with the public, to transmit an emotion, and to obviously be able to connect. Now, what elements can help a choreography be more entertaining? Well, one, the different dynamics, music, the connection with the movements and the music, let's say the enjoyment of the dancer when he or she is interpreting the choreography as well, that will connect and have an effect on entertainment. So all these elements, I say, work together in order to make a choreography more entertaining, or just, let's say, very monotonous. So the idea is to create different dynamics, surprise the public with different elements in order to make it more entertaining. Okay, so these are the main, let's say, criteria that the judge in modality is going to be looking for. We are always striving to be creative. That's why we're here in the creative workshop, and work with all the elements. So there's another thing we try to always take care of, is that everything is unique and original, and do not commit plagiarism and go into intellectual property, let's say, not theft, but yes, let's say, adopt different intellectual property elements. So when we have different references of choreographers, of performers that are an inspiration for the creation or for the dancers, well, the idea is to take that into account as inspiration, as how we can, what looks good, how it works better, the expression, how they put together the acrobatic and the dance elements, but not copy the work as a whole, because the creative process has a lot of work behind it, of course, and the idea is to respect that work and the challenges that those choreographers have gone before us. So here we're going to look to create our own elements and not copy any elements of other choreographers or performers. So that's the elements that the modality judge is going to be scoring and, of course, looking for in the performances to have better scores. Now we have the other judge that I was telling you about, that this complementary judge. Now the complementary judge is going to be looking for other elements that complement this work, as, for example, stage use. So when we talk about stage use, well, we're going to see that the idea is to fill the space, but of course, depending on the dancers. If we have 50 dancers on stage, well, the choreography will look full. Of course, the stage will look full, but the idea is how we use the stage with those dancers. Not only that it looks full, but we actually fill it with the movement. The other element will be formations. Not always keep the same formation, but change different formations. We have a lot of different formations we can use: circles, lines, diagonals. We can use horizontal lines, vertical lines. We can also do pyramids, squares, I don't know, mirror movements. There's so many elements we can use and bring into our performance to use different formations. We also have levels. We have high, middle, and low level movements or elements. Here in Acro Dance, all three levels are expected to be used during the performance, because we have elements in all three levels that are, let's say, pertinent for the modality. And also transitions. So transitions will be considered how we move through the space from point A to point B to get to our different formations, and how we get from our high level to our low level, and how we come from our low level back to our high level or our middle level, and how we transit through those different elements. If we walk to point A to point B, if we run, if we crawl, if we dance, if we go in acrobatic elements. So the more creative we are from how we get to one point to the other and transit as a part of the choreography will of course have a better enjoyment, entertaining, and will have better transitions. And of course the clarity, because if the formations are not clear, well, we can't actually see the formations. So they should be, of course, use different formations and be clear in their execution. Also, the image is going to be important. How the dancer is presented in a total. The creativity is one of the criterias. How are we being creative with this costume, the makeup, the hairdo, everything. When they walk on stage, we see that image. So how is that image different from all the others and has something unique? The accessories. In accessories, well, will be considered hair pieces, any elements that are, let's say, added, or in the case that we have to use face masks, the face masks will be considered an accessory as such. So it should also have a language and go, let's say, in accordance to the costume. If we have a character, if we're maybe telling a story, well, of course, all of this should work together to help tell better the story. The makeup. Well, the makeup is going to be an important element because we're taking something to the stage. So when we're on stage, we have lights, we have the public that is not close to us. We should help this, the makeup should help see better and clearly the expressions of the face, the different, let's say, facial expressions, the all the elements. It should also help if we have something like a character, will help emphasize maybe the age. Even the hair can be part of what tells us in what timeline it's occurring. If it's 1950, I don't know, well, how is the hairdo, how is the makeup different? If it's something as in the future, then that theme should be also, let's say, it could be, well, of course, complemented with the makeup, and that'll help make it more clear that is something in the future. What elements are we using to create that ambience in our performance? And of course, we also have the visual aesthetics. That is the whole, how they work together. So of course, if we have, let's say, a music that's has a theme, and we're not using that theme in our performance, in our makeup, well, then maybe it doesn't have so much, let's say, in common. But and if we have, let's say, our costume is something like from the future, but nothing else goes with it, and maybe it doesn't work together as a whole. So all of this for visual aesthetics should go grinded together and tell a whole story just by looking at the dancer, and that'll help the visual aesthetics. Okay. The other criteria that the complimentary judge will be looking for and scoring are the performance projection. So that is what we perceive of the dancer on stage, how he projects or she projects herself. That goes from the posture of how we express. Now we have 4 different criteria here. 1, gestuality. So that'll help, that's the body language, how we tell our story, how we transmit emotion through our movement, through our eyes, through some facial expressions when we don't have a mask on, but the whole body speaks constantly, and that is one of the elements that should be present here. Normally, some people execute acrobatic elements thinking only about the technique, same as dance, but all those elements should work together and through movement generate that expression as well. Now here we go with the authenticity of character that is also reinforced by this. So the authenticity of a character is, for example, we're talking about Acro Dance. So what are the elements that should be present in Acrodance, and how are we being faithful to that character and to that, let's say, modality? So the movements also, am I telling what a character maybe I'm portraying, or if I have a theme, are the movements, is the choreography keeping that authenticity of that character that I'm portraying? And of course, always inside the modality of Acrodance. The force of movement is the clarity of the movement. So if it's a sharp movement, it should be clearly sharp. If it's soft, if it's slow, if it's a very, let's say, strong movement, So that quality of the movement is also going to help tell and also going to reinforce the gestuality. And of course, it's going to help the technique as well, because clear what the dancer is interpreting and where the movement starts, where it ends, and the projection of using the stage not just in the floor, but actually filling the stage with our body and our presence. And of course, the interpretation. The interpretation is how this all works together and grinds together through movement and gestuality, keeping our character, how we portray this character, and how we communicate with the audience through all these elements when they come together to create this interpretation, or this element we call interpretation, that is part of dance. And of course, we have our last but not least criteria, that's public criteria and public support. This is the way where all the audience, family, friends, or just people that are participating, watching, everybody that is part of the audience, no matter what type of connection we have, supports these dancers and gives them all that, let's say, energy that helps them in their performance. So this can be through social media, through Zoom here, through the chat, being there present when we are on stage. Well, the audience that's there giving applause and being there to help the dancer and to support the dancer, well, that is it's going to come in here. And it's where we have, let's say, an invited judge or invited judges, because everybody is part of this criteria and is helping the dancer. So those are the criteria for modality judge and complementary judge that are going to maybe give a possible maximum total of 100 points. Now, remember, we have another judge, that is the deductions judge, that is going to be looking and striving for all the rules to be complied, for the competition to be fair and a positive competitive environment. So here, what elements are we going to see and what are we going to try to maybe avoid? The criteria we saw before, the idea is to have them and to obviously exceed the expectations of these criteria. And the next criteria is the idea is to avoid them because they will have a deduction. So that will say take points away, the ones we want. So we don't want that, right? Now, the basic element for avoiding deductions is knowing about them. And that's why you're here. So if you're here watching us live, or if you're on YouTube, well, this will, of course, be a very, very wise element and knowledge to have and to, of course, apply to your creative process. As you're going to see, most of the deductions are avoidable. You can foresee them before and not include them in your performance, the great majority. And of course, well, the knowledge of them is also going to be, well, it's the main element important to be able to avoid them. So if you're here, that part doesn't worry me. So I'm going to start telling you what they are in order that you can avoid them totally. Now, we have wrong modality. So here are the choreographies that definitely do not belong in acro dance because it does not have enough acrobatic elements or dance in the performance. Remember, it should have dance as the basic context and have minimum of 5 acrobatic elements. Of course, the 5 acrobatic elements is just a minimum. How we balance those acrobatic elements with the dance, well, of course, is going to go above expectations and have a better score. The wrong division. In the wrong division, well, will be the age. So according to the age of your dancers, you should choose the correct division. Here, we didn't go through all the divisions. We went over that on our first workshop. So if you weren't present, go ahead and go back and watch our workshop and see what the correct division for your dancer or dancers is. We also have the wrong level. In the wrong level, here's very important. We talked about the new all dancers, the open student, the student, and each one of the levels, what they should have. So choose the correct level for your dancer according to the performance and the technique and the technical difficulty they have in their performance. So what happens if I'm registered in a new all dancer, but I do, I don't know, a back handspring, or I do fouette turns? Well, then it will have a deduction of 15 points because that dancer should be in not new all dancers, but should be in student level. So it's just avoid that and make it fair for every dancer possible. We also have late arrival on stage. That means on time. When you register, when registrations close, we send you a preliminary program where you can see what approximate time you should be dancing. This approximate time, well, of course, as I say, it's approximate because sometimes the event can go maybe smoother and go quicker. Sometimes we can have some minutes of delay, but we always have everybody appointed to be there 2 hours in advance. So that way we can warm up, put our makeup on, be ready to dance, and be able to keep track of how the competition is evolving. So we're on time, we're going ahead of schedule, so I know I have to be quicker. So we have 2 hours there for any delay that can be possible or any element that can maybe have a negative effect on our punctuality. So that is very important. So late arrival on stage, if you're not ready at the time, not the time that you are the row that is on the program, but the order you should be dancing in, well, then you'll have a late arrival to stage. False routines start. When we are on stage and we're ready to perform, the music starts. As soon as the dancer starts moving, we will consider that the choreography began. Now, if by any chance it's not the correct music, or let's say the music didn't start at the beginning, but already began, keep in mind that we should teach our dancers and prepare them for these situations. They should not move if it's not their music. That's going to void this deduction. If they move, that's where this starts, and they have to begin again, we'll have a deduction. So let's avoid that. Forbidden elements. When we're talking about forbidden elements, we're talking about the elements that can maybe endanger the stage or endanger the dancer by any way. Let's say the use of water, fire, any let's say liquid, dust, elements on the costume like feathers that can fall off easily and have a dancer slip. I don't know, helium balloons that we let loose and can go up to the lights and maybe cause an accident that can harm somebody. Those would be considered forbidden elements. Excessive use of acrobatic and or gymnastic elements. Here, this particular criteria does not apply to acro dance because we do not have a limit of how many acrobatic elements we should use. Remember, there should be in a dance context, and we should see dance like we see acrobatic elements, but not a maximum, like if you do 7, it's too much. No, just keep a balance. Makeup, body paint, inappropriate, obscene, or offensive clothing. Well, the clothing should be appropriate for the dancer, appropriate for the category, for the modality. So it should be a comfortable costume that they can execute the movements they are doing in their choreography, and should be, well, not offensive to any race, to any culture. And of course, body paint, in this case that we touch the floor, should not be used because it's 1, oil-based, 2, it can make the floor dirty in the stage for other performers after. And body painting is a beautiful form of art, but normally is used without a undergarment. So it will not be appropriate for the stage or for the audience that we are inclined to, for a family audience and multicultural audience as well. So that is this criteria. Next, our next criteria is poorly executed elements. There will be those technical elements that we include in our performance should be well executed correctly. So we have an acrobatic element. How is the correct execution? If we're putting turns, jumps, how are our toes? How are our feet alignment? How is our spot when we're turning? Our knees, are they bent? Are they straight? Should they be bent? And those types of elements. Of course, dance and acrobatic elements here all together. We have also tripping or falling. In tripping, well, is those elements that almost failed, but we could recover. Let's say instabilities or stumbling elements have 0.5 of deduction. And when we cannot save the execution and we fall, well, it would be 1 point deduction here. We also have throwing items to the public. That would be when we take something off or we have something and we throw it. Sometimes we throw elements to cause, I don't know, a different effect. So we can throw them on stage, through the side, leave them on stage, but we should not throw them to the public or in front of the stage, okay? We also have inappropriate language or music. The music should not contain sexual, lyrics, should not contain bad words, should not contain any words that are offensive to a race, to a culture, to a gender, to a sexual orientation. It should be very respectful of everybody, no matter their beliefs, no matter their place of origin, no matter their race. All elements should be, and everybody is alike and should be respected in dance and in every way, also in music, and should not have a sexual content because this is a family environment and family audience. Inappropriate movement, the same. The movement should not be sexualized movements with or without expressions, and it should be appropriate for all cultures and all ages, family audience as well. So here, try to keep those movements according to dance and none of those sexual expressions that sometimes are emphasized through movement. Now, the other criteria that we have are one, accidents of or fallings of clothing. That includes accessory. If we use props, here we can use props if we want. Of course, if we use them during the acrobatics, that will also include some difficulty in your performance. But if they fall, well, then they have a deduction. So whatever we have on our hair, good bobby pins. If we have it on our clothes, well sewn. If we have it on our hands, practice with every element you're going to use so you're used to it and it doesn't fall, or, well, we can avoid as maximum as possible that eventuality. Damaged clothing or untidy clothing, well, that's our personal presentation. So it should not be ripped, it should not be torn, it should not be dirty. Well, our underwear should not be visible. Well, our undergarment, and we should be very well presented. Our hair, how is it taken up? There's not a specific hairdo that is possible or not, but it should be well presented. And well, sometimes, let's say, loose hair isn't the best option for acrobatic elements because we can have a very serious accident. That more as a recommendation. Choreography inappropriate to division. That's very simple. Keep your choreography age appropriate. That's it. We also have Altissonians at the start or end of the routine, or middle of the routine in that case. This meaning that in the performance by the dancers, in the music or any way, should be the dance studio name, the crew name, or euphoric expressions to create energy in the public and in the judges. If you want to create that energy, that is perfect, but it should be through dance and through your interpretation, not through different expressions that can arouse the public. We also have left elements on stage. This means all the elements that come on stage with us should leave the stage with us, because we brought them on as props, because we brought them on our costume, on our hairpiece. So everything that came on stage with us should leave stage with us. Use of scenery. Here, the idea is that everything that we take into our performance will tell our story, our context, and help create the ambience we need. So this is the costume, the makeup, the music, the performance. What we will consider scenery are those elements that we bring on stage that are just there for decorative, let's say, purpose. and are not part of the choreography. So that would be what we consider scenery, and that is not allowed. What is allowed? Props, elements that are part of the choreography. If we bring something on stage, it should be at least a 30% present in the choreographies. So that is very important to keep in mind. So if we're going to use a chair, it should be used in the choreography, not just set on stage to maybe create an illusion of where the dance is occurring or something. That should be given all through the performance by other elements. Also, we have fans or public obstructing the judgment. So our audience, when they are enjoying the performances, the idea is to have, let's say, a respectful manner of watching and, of course, of supporting the dancers. Before and after the performance, they can be as loud as they want, scream, applaud, everything. But during the performance, the idea is to do it in a respectful manner and to allow everybody to enjoy the performance, hear the music, and not distract the dancers. So here we keep it to a lower volume. We applaud, we support, but not extreme volume that will not allow the dancers to hear their music, to perform correctly, and of course, the audience and the judges to also be able to hear and enjoy the performance. Getting off, jumping off, or dropping off stage. Now this mean if we want to get off stage, it should be through the places that are indicated for that, not jump off the stage, front, sides, back, in no way. The only way to get on and off is where it is determined that the exit points are. So those are the ways that we should get on and off stage safely. The other element is routine time. Okay, the routine time, we have a maximum time established for every one of our subdivisions. We also went through that on our first workshop that we went over all the divisions, what is the maximum time, the subdivisions, and here is meaning how many dancers are on stage. They have a maximum time of choreographic time possible for their performance. So let's say an example, solos, duos, and trios. They have a maximum possible of 2 minutes. If it's 1.5, no problem. 1:40, no problem. 2 minutes, okay. But for every 5 seconds we go over those 2 minutes, we have 3-point deductions. So if the choreography lasts 2:06, well, we have a deduction. 2:12, it has 6-point deduction. So this is very easily avoided. Keep the maximum choreographic time in mind. Do not go over. I do not recommend, however, to go very close to the edge. For example, we go 2:04. It is very easy that the dancer, even if the music lasts 2:04 and is the length, that maybe starts a little early, the movement, or takes a little more time to get to the final pose, 1 second, and instead of 2:04, the choreography went 2:05, because the time is taken from the first movement or sound and stopped at the last movement or sound. So it is important that we don't go too close to the edge, for lack of better words, and maybe have the risk of going to 2:05 and have a deduction. So, well, that's a recommendation because it could happen, but obviously with the knowledge, you choose what is best for you or consider is best for your performance. Intellectual property, we went through that earlier. That's of the modality judge, but here it's going to be reflected in the deduction sheets. We also have regulation infringements. Now here, we have our organic code that is designed specially to make all the competitions fair and just for all the dancers and performers, and for it to have equal opportunities. So any infringement that can endanger the health, the well-being of any dancer, the correct functioning of the event, any elements that are against the rules and that are not respected can cause a deduction. So please keep that also in mind. And last but not least, an increase in unreported dancers. When we register, remember we have we send the program. In the program, I recommend highly you check the program, see how many dancers are on the sheet on the program, the name of the choreography, the name of the dancers, that everything is correct. If there is a mistake or if there's something to be corrected, we'll inform so through the correct channels, written, WhatsApp, or email, but it should be in, let's see, sent all the adjustments that should be done. Now, if that wasn't the case, you checked, but on stage, more performers are on stage than registered, well, that will have a deduction 5 points for each dancer. So just register the correct amount of dancers who will be on stage, and that will be it. If you do not check the program and you did not inform let's say if there was an error, well, then that's the only way we have of actually knowing that everything is okay. So please check the program. What happens if less dancers dance in the performance? Well, depends. It probably won't matter if it's, let's say, 5 dancers were registered and 1 can't dance. Well, it's still a small group, no problem there. But what happens if we have registered a trio, but only 2 dancers are stage and perform? Well, this is going to obviously affect, because it's not a trio anymore. They should be dancing with duos, so they're in the correct subdivision. So here we should of course inform if that is the case for any reason that could arise, but inform correctly and of course on time, in order to help and see what we can do to solve the situation in these possible situations that can arise. Okay, we're always looking for ways to help. Sometimes it's out of our control, but you should always have a clear communication with all these occurrences that may arise. So those are the elements from modality, complementary, and the possible deductions. As you can see, and I told you at the beginning, most of the deductions are easily avoided just by knowing that what you should and shouldn't do in your performances, and that way avoid as many deductions as possible. Some are things that happen during the competition that we can't avoid. We can try to prepare as well as possible for them to be avoided, but sometimes they're out of our control. But most of them, and the ones that have a bigger impact in the score, well, can be avoided easily. So if you're here listening, well, remember, keep them in mind, check them when you're doing your performance, when you're creating your choreography, and that way you will have better scores and better results. If you have any questions, and maybe you're watching us through YouTube, our official YouTube channel, All Dance International Official, remember to subscribe, like, and leave in the comments, well, what you liked, what you didn't, and of course, questions. We're always here to help, to support, and anything we can do to clear all those doubts, well, it will be our pleasure. So remember, we're here for the growth and all the elements that we can provide for the dancers to have the best competitive and positive competitive experience here in All Dance International. It's one of our main objectives. This is just one of our 20 workshops. Remember, we have already had some of the workshops you can see on YouTube. The other ones, I invite you. Tomorrow we are with a musical theater, same time. Remember, we are in Panama schedule time, so be there, be present. I hope to see you guys very soon. I am, remember, Sandra Correa from Colombia, and it's always a pleasure to be here to share with you guys and be part of this Creatives Workshop. So thank you, All Dance International, for making this possible, Maria Fernanda Castro, and all of the All Dance International team. So I hope to see you guys very soon, and bye-bye. Have a great day.
Didn't break me, didn't stop me. It didn't kill me, didn't drop me. Yeah, I can still feel my heartbeat. Like, it didn't faze me, didn't move me. It couldn't hold me, couldn't crush me. Yeah, I can still feel